Welcome back to Mysteries Crime Stories, the channel where we dive into the darkest crimes, the strangest cases, and the mysteries that have haunted generations. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss these mysteries. Tell us in the comments what you think about the cases we cover, what you'd like to see in future videos, and share this story with anyone who would find it important. Now, let's begin. In March 2012, in the bustling Kenyan town of Nanyuki, a young woman named Agnes Wanjiru vanished into the shadows of the night. She was 21 years old, a hairdresser, a mother, known for her warmth and laughter. That evening, she had gone out, seen in the company of British soldiers stationed nearby. The night was filled with music and chatter, but as dawn broke, Agnes was gone. For weeks, her family searched. The whispers of her disappearance hung over the town, unanswered questions pressing in. Then came the discovery. Her body, hidden in a septic tank at the Lions Court Hotel near the military base. Naked, discarded, silenced. The years that followed offered no closure. Witnesses spoke of soldiers who might know more. Some hinted at confessions, others remained silent. A leaked private chat among soldiers years later made light of her death, joking about septic tanks. For Agnes's loved ones, these revelations were not merely cruel, they were haunting. Her daughter, just a baby when she lost her mother, grew up under the care of her grandmother and aunt. They fought relentlessly, demanding answers, calling for justice that never came. Every new promise from officials seemed to dissolve into delay. International complications clouded the case. The accused soldier, believed to have returned to the United Kingdom, remained out of reach. For more than a decade, Agnes's story lived in the half-light between memory and neglect. In September 2025, that silence shifted. A Kenyan High Court judge, Alexander Muteti, issued an arrest warrant for a former British soldier accused of Agnes's murder. The charge was clear, the process underway. Prosecutors sought extradition, reaching across borders for accountability. The United Kingdom pledged support, cautious yet committed, its institutions weighing diplomacy against obligation. The possibility that a British soldier could stand trial in Kenya for the murder of a Kenyan woman carried heavy significance. Agnes's family, after 13 years, saw a path opening, though uncertain and steep. Far from Kenya, another story of loss and silence had never been allowed to rest. On January 30th, 1972, in Derry, Northern Ireland, thousands of civilians gathered to march for civil rights. The air was sharp with winter, voices carried banners of dignity and equality. But before the march reached its end, chaos consumed the streets. Soldiers from the British Army's Parachute Regiment opened fire. Unarmed civilians fell. 13 were killed that day, another died later from his wounds, many others injured. For the families, Bloody Sunday became both a memory and an open wound. In the years that followed, inquiries attempted to explain the tragedy. The first, the Widgery Report, was criticized for whitewashing the events. Decades later, the Saville inquiry concluded the killings were unjustified and unjustifiable. The British Prime Minister issued a public apology, acknowledging the wrong. Yet, for the families, apologies were not enough. They sought accountability not in words, but in law. For years, the pursuit of justice seemed fruitless. Political changes, legal barriers, and the sheer passage of time left many wondering if those responsible would ever face trial. Soldiers were shielded, evidence grew older, memories frayed. But persistence did not fade. Survivors and relatives pressed forward, demanding recognition of what had been denied for too long. In September 2025, more than half a century after Bloody Sunday, the case of Soldier F came to court in Belfast. He faced 2 charges of murder, James Ray and William McKinney, and 5 counts of attempted murder. The court allowed anonymity, shielding his identity behind a curtain. To some, this protection was necessary. To others, it symbolized the continued reluctance to face the truth. Inside the courtroom, prosecutors described civilians fleeing, unarmed, posing no threat. The bullets, they argued, were fired with intent, not defense. Witness testimony, survivor accounts, and archival evidence created a portrait of events that resisted silence. Soldier F pleaded not guilty, his voice carried through microphones from behind the curtain. The trials in Nairobi and Belfast, though separated by continents and decades, echoed one another. In Kenya, a mother's life stolen and hidden. In Northern Ireland, marchers' lives cut short in the open. Both cases carried the weight of institutional power. Both revealed how justice could be delayed, obscured, denied. And in both, families endured, refusing to forget. Agnes's daughter, now a teenager, grows up with memories not of her mother's embrace but of her absence, of photographs, of stories kept alive by her grandmother. The families of Bloody Sunday carry half a century of grief, generations who never met their relatives but know their names, their faces, their legacy. For both, the pursuit of justice is more than punishment. It is the restoration of dignity, the refusal to let the silenced remain forgotten. Legal processes now move forward. In Kenya, October 21, 2025, marks the next hearing on the extradition process. In Belfast, trial proceedings continue, with witnesses revisiting decades-old memories, prosecutors piecing together events once obscured. The law struggles with time's erosion, the fading of evidence, the unreliability of memories. Yet the pursuit itself becomes symbolic. These are not only trials of individuals, they are trials of systems, of nations, of the very idea of accountability. Can a powerful institution admit its faults? Can justice survive decades of delay? Can the forgotten speak again through courts of law? Agnes Wanjiru's name, once whispered, now rings in court filings and news reports. The names of James Ray and William McKinney, once shouted in the chaos of Derry, now return through indictments. Both stories remind the world that silence is not peace, that time does not erase wounds, and that justice, though late, may still arrive. In the echo of these cases lies a truth that bridges continents, that the past does not vanish, that shadows demand light, and that every unanswered crime waits, not for closure, but for recognition.